Hello and welcome to the Talking Food with Bidfood podcast. I'm Gemma Benford, Head of Customer Marketing. Our regular host Jo is on holiday, so I'm back as your guest host where we discuss all things related to catering for dementia. If you're new to the podcast, welcome and thank you for tuning in. I'm pleased to say we're recording this episode in support of World Alzheimer's Month, with Alzheimer's one of the most common causes of dementia. It's estimated 70% of residents in care are affected by this devastating disease. It's an important aspect for care catering and something we work on with many of our customers to help create suitable and innovative menu options. Symptoms of dementia can include memory loss, problems with language, not recognising food, loss of appetite or refusal to eat, which can lead to risks with malnourishment and dehydration. To help us understand more about how to best support residents, I'm very pleased to welcome to the podcast one of our customers, Rob Byrom, Regional Hospitality Manager at Hallmark Care Homes. Before I get into the conversation with Rob, I just wanted to remind you that all of the links to the information we discussed today are in the show notes. There's a lot of support available on our website. So Rob, welcome to the podcast.
Hi Gemma, thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here.
So before we get into the details, would you mind telling us a little bit more about you and your role at Hallmark?
Yep, absolutely. So like you said, I'm Rob Byrom. I'm the Regional Hospitality Support Manager of Hallmark Care Homes. So I first joined Hallmark back in 2012. I started off as an apprentice. I then worked my way up to become a Hospitality Services Manager, and I was based at Buckledge Grange Care Home in Ipswich at the time. I then left Hallmark after 4.5 years, however, decided to come back, or come crawling back, as I like to say, nearly 2 years later. And I've now been back for just over 3 years in my current role. So my role in a nutshell is to support all of our homes with all aspects of hospitality. So that's from the catering, all the way from the suppliers, all the way through to the food safety in the kitchen, all the way through to the dining experience, the housekeeping, laundry, the garden and general front of house service.
It's obviously been a really difficult last 18 months for the sector. How have things been for you at Hallmark?
Of course, very challenging, like it has been for everyone. However, Hallmark have been a great support. They've always put the residents and the team's safety as a priority. They've ensured we've always had the most up-to-date guidance, had the correct PPE, and we've always had very close communication throughout the whole pandemic. So yeah, we've sort of made the best out of a bad situation.
How many of your residents roughly are living with dementia? And what work have Hallmark done to support them?
So we've got 13 homes in England and 6 homes in Wales, all providing a varied of residential care, nursing care and dementia specialist care as well. So all of our homes range. I think our smallest home has 40 beds and our largest home has 120 beds. So yeah, there's obviously quite a lot of residents there we do support. There's lots of different things we've got in place with supporting residents live with dementia. So the communities, for example, they're always tailored for residents living with dementia. It could be something very simple. A coloured bedroom door, for example. The resident may remember the colour of the door rather than a number. Some of the residents have a sort of a large photo of something they recognise. It could be family, it could be themselves, it could be a pet. It's entirely up to them, and it depends on what would support them. So yeah, there's lots of stuff we can do to put in place.
And what are some of the main symptoms that you see in people that are living with dementia?
So yeah, it's impossible to say, to be honest, but everyone's personal experience is different, and the way the disease affects people may vary. So one of the, or a lot of the main things people generally think of is sort of short-term memory loss. It could be reduced ability to think through situations, inability to follow maybe a process, so sort of the order you do things, possible problems with vision, not recognising certain objects. It could even be a reduced sense of smell or taste, although some people actually have a heightened sense of smell and taste. Could be problems with spatial awareness. Obviously, of course, that's all coupled up with other challenges associated with getting older.
And thinking about that, either loss of taste and smell or heightened senses as well. For catering for dementia, that poses a few challenges. What are some of the challenges that you face with catering for your residents?
I think quite a few of the challenges, like you say, taste, appetite. Obviously, if you're not hungry, you're not going to want to eat. Like anyone. Maybe forgetting the mechanics of eating. Maybe could be difficulty with swallowing. Using cutlery. Knives, forks, and various pieces of crockery. It could be residents recognizing different foods or not recognizing them. Need to be aware of noise, around in the dining rooms or wherever they may be eating. Potentially unable to focus for a certain amount of time. Reduced sensation of being hungry. Not wanting to sit down for long periods. And it could even be, walking around a lot. And that's obviously expending energy. So trying to get enough calories in to support, that increased use of energy. And many, many more.
Yeah, and I think one of the key things you mentioned there is this sort of need to create a desire for eating, whether that's from the smells of something baking in the oven or the visuals. Would you mind talking to that point for our audience on how you at Hallmark go about creating a bit more desire around food?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the most important thing for me is, give the residents what they recognise and what they want to eat as well. The worst thing is going into a restaurant, for example, and that you're looking at the menu and you just don't like the look of any of it. So, that's something just really obvious, but sometimes is actually missed. Enable them to eat when, where, and how it works for them. So that could be in their bedroom, could be in one of our restaurants or the cafe, or even one of the lounges if that might be a bit quieter for them. Don't complicate things. Sometimes we sort of look into it a bit too much, and then before we know it, we're adding too much in, it's just confusing the situation. We like to use show plates for menu choices, so that consists of plating up one of each meal on the menu, and enabling the residents to see it, smell it, and feel it if they really wanted to. To make that choice. Of course, we do have written menus in the middle of the table as well, but it just ensures, everyone have that way of ordering something, they'd like. Serving the meal straight away. Obviously, we don't want to keep people waiting and, allow them to lose interest. Try and understand changes in taste. Does the person need more or less added to each meal to make it, more tasty or whatever it needs to go. And enable them to eat on the go as well. It's not, if someone's hungry, let's support them there and then, rather than say, lunch isn't for another hour. Can you wait? Well, no, they can't. Let's allow them to eat as and when they want to. Of course, looking into support from the speech and language therapists as well. Obviously, they're a huge support. Creating great smells to signal it's time for something to eat. Like we do like to bake bread in the dining rooms, what obviously spreads that sort of aroma around the whole community. In the mornings, we do like to cook breakfast where we can on the communities in the dining rooms. If you're anything like me, if you smell bacon in the morning, it immediately makes me hungry.
I love the idea of the show plates. That's brilliant. Are there any particular dishes that go down really well with your residents?
It's all down to the residents' likes and dislikes, to be perfectly honest with you. So, every home is different. Something I'm very passionate about is having a different menu in each of our homes. A number of providers like to have one menu in all of their homes across the country, for obvious reasons, really. However, we ensure the menus are created by the residents in that home, using their likes, dislikes, and the regular feedback we get. We try and get as much feedback as we can on a daily basis. We do also have regular food forums as well. We're always looking for feedback on, stuff they're really enjoying and they want to keep on the menu, and certain things they may want to swap, adapt, and maybe change for the next menu cycle as well. So our menus are generally very popular in each home, for that reason. They are chosen by the residents. However, I know if we swapped and changed some of the homes, it might not go down too well because obviously everyone's got a different palate.
And are there any different formats of food that you would use for people living with dementia? So I'm thinking, you mentioned, your residents are on the go, potentially a bit more, they're not sat down, they're not necessarily having that set 3-course meal. Would you introduce things like finger foods?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's on sort of an individual's basis. So we try and keep it simple to a certain extent, but, just keep it to things that residents want. Don't give them something that they don't like. And obviously making sure they've always got a choice of something they like on the menu. So yeah, we never do a blanket effect. One of my terms I use quite a lot with, just because you're living with dementia doesn't mean you have to have finger food, or it doesn't mean you have to have a blue plate or a yellow plate. Some residents, yes, they will benefit from using something different, and that's absolutely fine. And that's what we will cater for. If we have got evidence a resident would benefit or maybe eat more from using a blue plate, then yes, we'll provide that blue plate. But obviously we'd look into the pros and cons for each resident on each piece of crockery, cutlery we may use, and yeah, tailor it to that individual.
Yeah, that tailoring to the individual's requirements is so important, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I loved what you said as well about getting residents involved and getting their opinions about the menus. I'm sure that can be quite controversial at times. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
To be fair, it's quite good because it is a regular thing. It's not something we look at once every quarter when we change our menus. We change our menus seasonally, so it's not like anyone around. What do you fancy on the menu? It is daily feedback. It is regular, so it's not sort of a bombardment of lots of information at one time. The food forums, they're great. You're always going to get someone doesn't want something on the menu, but then someone sitting next to them may love it. But that's obviously the importance of having the choice each day. So that just to ensure there is always something on the menu. So with our menus as well, we do have sort of a cool-off menu or an alternative menu as well. So our main menus, like I said, they change seasonally every quarter. We do have sort of more substantial meals on there, to get obviously all the nutrition, all the calories we need in there. We do also have an alternative menu, what's pretty much the same every day. But it's sort of stuff like your sandwiches, salads, and jacket potatoes, omelettes, bits and pieces like that. That if someone doesn't fancy, a big meal or whatever's on the menu, then they've always got something to sort of fall back on and choose from.
And are there any must-have criteria that you would be looking at when catering for dementia? So, whether that is the nutritionals, a higher calorie count, or it has to be easy to identify the food on the plate, that kind of thing?
I think sort of your old school English traditional meals are always very popular, sort of your meat and two veg, your cottage pies and stuff. There's always a way of doing it. I know certain restaurants, that you can get a shepherd's pie and you can get a shepherd's pie. Just because it's a sort of an old traditional meal, it doesn't have to be slop on a plate. There is ways of obviously making it look a lot nicer and appealing on the plate as well. And obviously depending on what you put in with it and how you're serving it. I think that's a huge thing to look at. The chefs can do an amazing job cooking everything from fresh, from scratch, and if it's thrown on a plate and thrown in front of someone, however good the food is, you're not going to want to eat it. We also provide 100-calorie boosters for residents who may need a higher calorie intake. For example, we also do milkshakes. So not everyone needs the calories, believe it or not. A lot of people think, oh, you're in a care home, you need more calories. It's not always the case. So we may have, say, 2 strawberry milkshakes on today. One would have a lot more calories in than the other. So people have still got sense of they don't feel different. Everyone feels equal, and don't feel like they're having something extra on top of everyone else.
That was something I wanted to ask you, actually, was around how do you create this sort of balance in terms of your back of house, the operation when you are catering for lots of different needs, but there's a need to streamline what you're doing. How do you manage that?
Again, it's getting to know the residents you're catering for. If you know them, their likes, dislikes, and obviously any allergens or anything to take into account, then sort of you're halfway there. So yeah, if you're doing 1,000 meals, for residents, it's going to be a lot harder to get something on there that everyone likes, or having everyone to have a choice. If you do it home by home, it can still be challenging, of course, but it's going to be a lot easier for doing it for sort of your 40 to 120 residents instead of everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And are there any dishes or particular recipes that are hits with your residents with dementia?
I think it really is different. It really does vary between home by home. Some residents do love the finger foods and something they can sort of just pick at. And many residents love sort of the traditional English meat and two veg, and your pies, your stews. So yeah, we always have them available as well.
So for residents where a set meal time or sitting down for a meal is a challenge, and they maybe want something that's a bit more like an all-day snacking, how do you manage that?
So we've got a number of things depending on the needs of the residents on each community. So we have hydration stations for residents to help themselves. So that could be various drinks and various snacks, from your homemade biscuits, homemade cakes to packet crisps and just snacky bits and pieces. We do have team offering that throughout the day as well. So if residents don't want to help themselves, or it's just to try and promote that, so the team are involved in that as well. A fruit bowl can sometimes look nice, but it's not very appealing or practical. So we like to do sort of fruit displays. So nicely cut up fruit, plenty of colours in there, so residents can help themselves or team members can support them, and it's ready to eat rather than something you need to peel or prepare. We do freshly baked pastries in the morning in our cafes, homemade biscuits, homemade cakes in the afternoon as well. And again, they're in our cafes, but around the communities as well for people to help themselves or be offered. And yeah, various different snacks like the 100-calorie boosters I mentioned as well.
Rob, before the interview, we were briefly chatting and you mentioned the 6 senses that's important to think about when we are catering for dementia. Would you be able to tell us more about that, please?
Yeah, so something that has stuck with me that I learned from our dementia team is the 6 senses, which need to be present for everyone living with dementia, which are security, belonging, continuity, purpose, achievement, and significance. So that's really stuck with me. So I feel whatever you're doing, whether it's catering or anything else, always take them into account and see how they'll be impacted for that individual.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a brilliant note for us to finish on. And before I let you go, I wanted to just ask you one more question, which was about fast forward 10 years' time. Where do you think the care sector will be at, and what does catering in care look like then?
It's a very good question. I think, I'm sort of 9 years into my sort of care career, if you like. And I think even in that time, it's flown by, but so much has changed. So I think, give it another 10 years, I think we're going to learn a lot more about dementia than we already know. And I think we need to just continue working on that. So I'm very lucky to be in a position with Hallmark, and we have got homes opening. We've got 3 next year who are opening up, and we've got more in the pipeline as well. And it's we're looking at villages for the future rather than say a home. So that village could there's no end to it. So we're even talking about having sort of somewhere you can wash your car in the car park. You can go down to the the grocery store. You can there's a butcher's, there's a florist on site, and having that real safe place, but also a very sort of normal life to lead as well. So I think that I'm hoping that's the future at the moment. But again, ask me in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years time. I'm sure that will change and update every time you ask me.
Thank you, Rob, so much for joining me today. Lots of useful information I'm sure our listeners will find invaluable.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been great to chat, Gemma. Thank you.
before we go, just onto a bit of a different topic. I wanted to take the opportunity to let you know about our new Caterers Campus platform. Caterers Campus is our brand new and exclusive e-learning platform for the care sector. It's easy to use, fun and interactive, and contains 6 modules on everything from dysphagia and IDSI, managing cost control, and of course, dementia. Because it's online, it's available for all of your team to use. Head over to bidfood.co.uk/care-homes to find out more. There's a wealth of information available on the same page, including our new dementia guide, dysphagia guide, and care caterers handbook. Head over to the webpage to find out more. The link is also in the show notes. As always, if you're interested in becoming a customer and you would like to know more about how we can support your care home business, we'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much for listening.